Hi, it's Amy.Salera. Today I wanted to give you an update about what's going on with the Pittsburgh housing market. Even though we're still in the middle of a pandemic, the Pittsburgh housing market has continued to remain extremely strong. Now, in no way am I trying to downplay what's been going on in the world, but I just solely want to state the facts about what's happening in the housing market and then also provide you with some explanation as to why this is happening. Over the past few months, unemployment has hit the lowest income earners the hardest. If we take a look at this graph, it compares the unemployment rate to the weekly earnings rate. On the far left are the higher income earners. You can see that they've been hit the least by unemployment. Whereas as you move to the right of the graph, the lower income earners are in a major recession. This is why the real estate industry so far hasn't been heavily impacted. We've been having high housing sales and also high unemployment. The pandemic is not impacting the same people. The people who make the most amount of money have been impacted the least, so they've continued to go on and buy houses. 4.2% unemployment on the left is completely normal and healthy because it accounts for people who are voluntarily in the middle of switching jobs. The people who make the most amount of money are suffering the least at this point. However, if this continues for too long, eventually the people who are impacted on the right, their lack of unemployment will impact those on the left. Here's a look at how unemployment has been impacting people by age range. If you look at the far left, the people who are 24 years old or younger have been hit the hardest by unemployment. However, they're only making up 3% of the home buying population. So the real estate industry isn't feeling the impacts of the unemployment from that group. In the middle of the graph, the 25 to 34-year-old buyers, this is the group that typically makes up the first-time home buyer population. Their unemployment is at 9.7%. It's not overwhelming, but it's still a significant number. And then on the far right, the group that makes up 72% of all home purchases, their unemployment is only at 6.8%. So again, the people who are buying the houses have been impacted the least, and that's why the housing market has continued to remain so strong. So that's what's been going on with income and unemployment. The people who have the means, who have the money, they've been taking action and they've continued to buy houses. Now let's take a look at GDP. So this graph is all about spending. 67% of GDP is driven by consumer spending. Corporate spending, government spending, and exports make up the other 33%. Throughout history, GDP has never dropped as quickly as it did in the first quarter of 2020. If that decline had continued at the rate it was going, the second quarter of 2020, we would have ended with negative 31.7% GDP. Even during the Great Depression, GDP was negative 12.9%. Now let's look at annual GDP. This graph shows GDP year over year throughout history. 2 to 3% of GDP is solid. It's not a boom, but it's solid. 4% is extremely high. We're currently predicted to end the year 2020 at negative 6%. Here's a look at what's been going on with home prices. This graph shows what happens when there's a limited supply, a strong demand, and historically low interest rates. Now, I obviously don't have a crystal ball, but everyone's predicting that interest rates are going to continue to remain low for the rest of the year. There's nothing that's currently causing them to be driven up. I also heard the prediction that our economy has gotten so used to such low interest rates that driving them up could cause a recession. So those previous graphs were looking at unemployment, GDP, income earners. Now let's take a look to specifically what's been happening here in Pittsburgh. This graph shows a month-over-month comparison between inventory in 2019 versus 2020. To refresh your memory, inventory is based on supply and demand and how many houses are for sale currently and what the demand is for those houses. Obviously, you can see that based on the purple bars, in April, May, and June of 2020, inventory spiked. However, otherwise, inventory has been lower every month in 2020. Now, I'm trying not to make this video too long, so I have one more graph to show you. Here's a look at loan delinquency rates. As of September, 7% of all homeowners were in forbearance and 3% of those were in 90 days delinquent. Now, some people might have taken forbearance as a precaution because we can only look at employment as an indicator for what might happen, but unless employment increases, by the time these people come out of forbearance, there could be a higher number of people who are going into foreclosure. So I feel like this video was a little bit of a downer, not very upbeat. Again, I just wanted to kind of state the facts and show what's been going on. Obviously, I don't know what's going to happen. None of us do. As a takeaway, I would say that if you're thinking about selling your house within the next 12 months, maybe think long and hard about doing it sooner. As I showed you in one of my graphs, inventory in Pittsburgh is still extremely low, which means the market is currently favoring sellers. Unless unemployment changes, the people who are currently in forbearance, when that forbearance becomes due, if they aren't able to pay and make their loans whole, you're going to be seeing a lot more foreclosures coming on the market. So if you're thinking about selling, it would be better to do it now when there are less houses for sale rather than when all these people are going into foreclosure and the inventory is higher. If there's anything that I can do to help, please reach out, let me know. If you're currently in forbearance and you're going to be coming out soon and you don't think you're going to be able to make your mortgage payments, or if you have job uncertainty right now, if you need help with any type of planning, please let me know. I have resources available and I'm happy to share them with you.